much, Jennifer. And I love you too, my darling. Yes, the wig and funny glasses and little videos, and I put that on our group chat. Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! We have a lot of fun in our sobriety. So, Lynn, an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, will die an alcoholic. This incurable chronic illness, and I will die with the risk of drinking again. And so that's why I treat my alcoholism on a daily basis with the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, because all we've got is a daily reprieve. So the work that I do with the steps has an expiration date, and it's midnight. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do it all over again, and it's worked very, very well so far. I have a sponsor, Cheryl. She knows she's sponsoring me. I was texting her yesterday. I am current with my sponsor. She has a sponsor who has a sponsor. I have sponsees, and many of them have sponsees. My home group is Back Porch International. We meet every day. I attend twice a week. And my sobriety date is June 22nd, 1982. So I am evidence that with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's possible to be sober 43 years. The foreword of the second edition mentions permanent sobriety. So my sobriety is not permanent yet, but we are on our way if I continue to maintain my spiritual condition. The word continue is mentioned 4 times in the first paragraph of the 10th step. So today, I'm going to be a little bit controversial. Before the meeting, somebody said that this is the red lipstick of controversy, that I was announcing it. And I'm going to share with you things that I've been pondering as far as my conception of a higher power. And it's not a point of view yet, but I'm getting pretty close. And what I'm sharing with you tonight is a result of prayer, meditation, contemplation, reading different spiritual books, listening to you, observing, and I'm going to put it on the table for the first time. So, the purpose of our 11th step, prayer in Alcoholics Anonymous, is not praying for the end of starvation in the world, for peace in the world. These are all wonderful ideas, but it's not our purpose. Our purpose is to pray for the knowledge of God's will for me today and to pray for the power to carry it out. It's very specific and very narrow. I take for granted, as the big book says, that God takes care of all my needs. I am covered. And there is always a condition. I have not found one free lunch in the big book. It's if I stay close to Him and perform His work well. Not with excellence, not better than last time or better than you, just well. This is all I need to do for God to take care of all my needs. And the big book says that God is the spirit of universe underlying the totality of all things. So I'm thinking there are no empty spaces. And the idea of God is in every man, woman, and child. So God is everywhere for the taking. And we all have that. Now, in the reading that I have chosen, it indicates that we form ideas as to what we think God's will is for other people. Now, there is nothing in the big book that suggests that in the morning I'm going to pray to God for God's will for my husband and to give me the power to make him do it. It's my inventory, it's my life, my program, and it's about me taking care of my spirituality and knowing what God's will is for me, not for you. We say to ourselves, this one ought to be cured of his fatal malady, or that one ought to be relieved of his emotional pain, because should he, I would be more comfortable. So there is a little bit of a mixed bag there. Oh, yeah, we say even when our motives were good. Well, it usually is because there is a little smelly selfishness underneath all of it, and then the show does not come off well. And we pray for these specific things. Such prayers, of course, are fundamentally a good act, but often they're based upon the supposition that we know God's will for the person for whom we pray. I find that so interesting. And it says that this means that side by side with an earnest prayer, there can be a certain amount of presumption and conceit in us. Ouch! This is not really good news. And so I wanted to give you some example when I thought I knew what God's will was for you. So there was this friend, and she was telling me that her boyfriend wanted to keep in touch with his last girlfriend. And I'm thinking, what a nitwit. She's such a sweet, sweet girl, and she smells good, and she's yummy, and she's fun. Why trying to mess this up? So you know where I'm going, because I know he's wrong. And I want her to have those boundaries. And she thought about it and decided that she would go along with this as long as perhaps she would meet that ex-girlfriend. Or I thought, how can she do this? Well, 3, 4 months later, he decided, why am I doing this? What a nitwit am I? And so my idea for her to sort of tell him, no, you can't do that, was wrong. She gave him the freedom and he decided not to. Isn't that interesting? If I had prayed that this nitwit would stop doing that, then she would have the courage to tell him so. So in any case, I need to mind my business. I was single in sobriety and I got fired. Well, what that caused me to do eventually, within about 3 days, was to change career completely, let go of one that I didn't like, and started something new, and I ended up retiring in that field 10 years later. Imagine if you had prayed for me that I'd not be fired. I might still be stuck there if God had listened. So that's another example that even firing was a good thing for me. A few years ago, my husband decided he wanted to lease a car. So I was telling him, leasing a car, I'm so against this. You talk to your friends about that, not to me, because I have no authority and he's autonomous. And so he decided to lease that car. Well, apparently it turned out to be a great thing for him. What do I know? What do I know? At a women's meeting, that group, there were 4 ladies who got sober at the same time. And this was a Monday night big book study. And we took a group conscience in order to allow babies in that room. And there was no places where someone could babysit the babies. It was just one big room. And I voted for it. We lost about a third of the old-timers at that meeting. And 3, 4 months later, those babies woke up. I'm childless. The mess, the noise, the pushing the carrier during the meeting. And enough that we decided to ask a right of appeal, and it was refused. And so, was it God's will to have those babies at the meeting to accommodate those 4 ladies if we lose a third? And so all I can say is that God's will expresses himself in a group conscience and to go along with this. But when it's me thinking, I know God's will for you, there is no group conscience. It turns out to be an opinion, although it may be very well intended. My husband needs to have knee surgery in January, a knee replacement. And he was telling me, Lynn, I don't think I'm going to get that done. I really want to go on that trip and I'm going to postpone and I'm watching him a little bit jumpy on that knee. Honey, I think you need to get it done in January. And I was so aware that I was pushing my will on him, although it was because I care about him and I didn't want that knee to get worse. And so I told him, being fully aware, it's his decision to be made, and eventually he decided to have the surgery in January. What do I know? God's will for other people. Lois and Anne, who stayed with those alcoholics, those last gaspers, many told them, how can you, how could you? Even in the, when Bill writes the chapter to whites, and he's talking about divorce him, the fourth kind, divorce this guy. And those women, they say, even their families and their friends were telling them to leave those men. And they stayed and they stayed and they stayed. Well, we're looking at this and why don't they leave those husbands, those poor children raised in alcoholic family? But if Lois and Anne had left Bob, Dr. Bob and Bill, maybe there would be no Alcoholics Anonymous. On the other hand, Abby and Hank Parkhurst got drunk. Roland Hazard got drunk. Was this God's will as well? I don't know. I think that our higher power wants us happy, joyous, and free. But unless, like Bill said, we want him enough and need him enough, he may not come to us. And eventually, we might die of alcoholism. And that's the law. That is God's will. If I am not continuing to be careful with the 23 relapse warnings that I have found in the big book and I get drunk, is it God's will within me? Who wished that? I doubt it. My higher power is pure love. But it's in the big book that if we don't get rid of anger, that we might have to die, and God will permit this. Is simply the law, the consequences of my actions. And so what I'm left with, my friends, is principles. And the principle is a fundamental truth. And we have 36 of them, the steps, the traditions, the concepts. And so these are always God's will for me and God's will for my sponsees to practice the principles. Short of the principle, there might be an uncomfortable consequence. But how that looks like once I practice the principle to quit my job, to make sure I get happy at my job before I leave it, to go to management or not say anything, to break a relationship, a romantic relationship, or forgive and try to make it work, I have no idea. And I suspect neither do you about my situations. Neither do you. Neither does my sponsor, except in sharing with me if she has the same experience or sharing an idea. But as far as knowing actually what God's will is, outside of practicing those principles, I want to submit to you, my friends, that all bets are off. So, if this higher power is inside of me, I'm going to take that a little further now. I am at the king's table. Does my higher power need somebody's intervention to him on my behalf? If I want to pray for somebody, does their higher power that's inside of them, the big book says, that's the spirit of the universe, that's pure love, truth, and intelligence, needs my intervention to make his will happen in that person's life? It's just really interesting to me. We are all at the king's table. When you tell me you pray for me, I feel loved, I feel cherished, I feel comforted, but I don't think it's going to change God's mind as far as what's going to unfold for me. I just don't think so. Um, does God need your nudging in my life? That's my question to you. I can't answer it. I think I have an idea for myself, but now we're entering into the conception of God, our own personal conception of God. And it is very, very personal. But it's just something that I've been thinking about. And so this is what I wanted to share with you tonight. God's will for me, God's will for you. What do we know, really? I'm going to share something with you. I have the privilege to take a group in Middle East, in Iran, with a traductor, translator in Farsi. And I was glad when you recommended for those who could to turn on their video, because drinking there is illegal. And so AA is illegal. And out of 40, 45 people, there may be 4 or 5 people with their cameras on. And it is difficult. As much as I love them, and as much as with their hearts and their thumbs up, and I know they're there, they're listening. We've been together since January now. And how that happened, you see, when it's God's will, nobody really made that happen. I was sharing at a meeting there, and the translator happens to live 15 minutes from my house. And she asked me to sponsor her. And so we got in touch with the gentleman who hosts the meeting in Iran, and that I would take them through the big book line by line with question and answers at the end. And now they want to go through the 12 and 12, including the traditions. And I'm going to go to Iran with my sponsee friend translator in September, and I'm going to go meet my Muslim friends and ladies and men and do that together. I mean, talk about a gift that just with the idea, you know, to be of service, to contribute to the world. When we do that, this life unfolds flawlessly, and I don't have to think to the time to think, worry about what God's will for you is, what God's will for me is, and trying to project into the future to make me comfortable and try to figure it out. This is just pure experience, growing with them. And I'll share something kind of different, because you know it's a very different culture. And so I bought a book called Understanding Islam, because I knew we'd be talking about God. That's all we do, and I didn't want to offend them. And apparently I'm not, and we have fun with this. And then it was time to do the 4th step, the sex inventory. I used the sex ideal of a man who gave us permission to use it. And it has got 13 points, and it starts with being of service and being respectful. And one of the men at the end of the meeting said, Lynn, how can we have a sex ideal like that in a country where women are second-class citizens? Oh, give me a moment, please. And I went inside and I did this. Please, God, give me an intuition. Sexism stops where the big book starts. That's what I told him. And he said, we cannot change a country. And I said, no, but one sponsor to one sponsee to another, we can change hearts and we can change people. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, perhaps we have this very lofty purpose to be peacemakers all over the world because we carry the same pure message through cultures, through borders. It makes no difference. They're telling me that we're starting a revolution. Little old me talking to them about sexism. And so she told me that since that day, they're like little duckies following me. It's just amazing. And so when we talk about God's will for us personally, we pray, we ask God to show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. This is what we do all over the world. I wanted to share with my integrity because I had to reflect upon whether I would alter the message or share it the same way I do with my spouses. And my answer was clear. Lynn, do absolutely the same thing. Stay in integrity. And so this has been on my mind thinking about you today because we have those international meetings speaking the same language. And if we can really appreciate the assignment, the task that God has assigned to us online to reach those countries, to reach those small villages where they don't have big book study. We really, with carrying that message, can change lives that would have remained the same. It is so important for all of us, for me, to share that message just the way it is in our wonderful treasure of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is what I had to share with you tonight. Please be gentle with the questions because I cannot answer as far as the effect of praying for other people and affecting God's will in other people's life. I really don't know that, but I think that it's a very interesting point of view and it merits a little bit of attention as I thank you for yours tonight. Thank you for listening to me.
Oh, thank you, Lynn.
That I'm curious about is, and I know everybody gets asked this, but the discernment between your will and God's will, you know, where does the rubber hit the road for you in that?
It's the principle, Pat. It's always the principle. So I'll just make up an example. If I want to send my resume to a company and I really, really want to have that job and I'm cheating on my resume, is this God's will, lying on the resume? I believe that the job that belongs to me, I can get it without lying. And so God's will for me would be to have an honest resume, to learn about that company, have a little humor. If they ask me, what's your weakness? I say chocolate. And then to show up well dressed to my interview, try to find out how I can be of service to them, and then let the process evolve. If it's my job, I'll get it. And if not, it was not mine to begin with. So always practicing those principles. When I look at my calendar in the morning, what's on there? We ask God to direct my thinking that it be divorced from selfishness. That's certainly not God's will. Self-pity, dishonesty. And if I have anything on my calendar today where I have something in the pit of my stomach, there is something that's off. And I need to inventory it, maybe talk to my sponsor about it, and maybe change my plan entirely or not make that phone call because I was fishing for information. Is everything on my calendar to be of service to you, or am I trying to get something out of you? Making a request is fine, but is it unreasonable? Do I expect them to say yes? Then that means that you become my source. And I believe that you take care of my needs, not God. So I can allow you to say no to me, usually, and then I can go back to God. I can wait for you to become available. I can take care of it myself or ask somebody else. So there is never any doubt about the principles. Where I have a gray area is, am I being selfish or easy unreasonable with my husband? Just right there. Or if a sponsee drank again, do I continue working with her? Or is there a better sponsor for her in AA that she could hear? So these are the areas where I really need counsel, and I have no ego involved about asking for help. I want to avoid making mistakes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
Jamie, come on in.
Thank you, Pat. Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie, and I am an alcoholic. Thank you to the team here. And Lynn, thank you so much. I was writing away. Just an excellent, excellent share. So when you said that, you feel special or honored, or I don't remember the words that you would use when someone prays for you, but you don't feel that that is going to change God's will for you. I often hear page 552 recommended that, when I have a resentment, I should pray for that person for everything that I want for them. So I have a concept of what I believe that page is telling me, right? It changes my heart. So I don't have resentment, but I just wondered if you would elaborate a little bit more on that and your opinion or your thoughts on recommending that we pray for someone when we're in resentment. Thank you so much.
Well, if I pray for someone, it will bring a certain amount of compassion. It will help me have a more tolerant view, kinder, more tolerant view of that person. But if you pray for someone to get prosperity, call them in a month and see how much money they got. See, that's what I mean. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Jamie, for the question. Emma, come on in.
Hey, y'all. My name is Emmy. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much for that lead. It's, definitely just reminds me of going back to the drawing board and, so my question was, you had mentioned, God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free, and 100%, right? I agree with that. However, if we're in the world to play the role that he assigns, then sometimes that assignment is not going to be happy, joyous, and free while we're going through it, right? So, and especially with me right now, my son was murdered on March 30th of this year in a domestic violence situation. He helped a stranger escape another stranger he was beating her. And, we grew up with domestic violence, so we run towards the danger to help. In his situation, he did not escape. So, like, the assignment right now is not feeling so good. Yet, I internally am happy, joyous, and free. And it has a big thing to do with being a spiritualist and him being here all the time and feeling him and smelling him and all that stuff. So I just want you to, like, elaborate on how we can possibly still play the role that we're assigned by the Creator and be happy, joyous, and free, even in the turmoil of playing the assignment that we were assigned. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, and my condolences for your tremendous, tremendous loss.
Thank you.
I don't believe that God does not want us to cry and grieve. Otherwise, we would not have those feelings. If I remember well, in the big book, it says newcomers would not want what we have if we showed a valley of tears. So to me, the responsibility is much more at the meetings with the newcomers, where I can perhaps leave my heartache at home for an hour and be available for the newcomer. I tell my sponsee, if I'm an alcoholic in pain and I cannot go to a meeting to share my pain, where can I take it? And so we gave each other permission to share the pain for 1 minute and the solution for 2 minutes. So if I've been fired, instead of spending 3 minutes bad mouthing my employer and talking about my fear and my hurt feelings for 3 minutes, this may not be helpful to anyone. But, and that's what I did, I said I was fired today and I am in fear of financial insecurity. My ego took it like a fist in my stomach. I've already talked to my sponsor. This is my second meeting today. I will say my prayer tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to be at another meeting and I will start contacting people who may be able to help me find a job. Thank you so much. This is what I think the spirit is, rather than just go to a meeting and put all my little problems. I'm not talking about you and me, about what he did and what he said and the car not working, and just have meetings like that. We talk about being on the road of happy destiny and how God can bring us above our problems. Above our problems. The problems are not necessarily removed, but somehow in those moments of prayer, being at a meeting, taking a 12-step call, we get a little bit of relief from that tremendous pain that we have. So we get to be sober going through those heartaches, which is already so much better than if we were drinking on top of it. So to me, this view seems realistic, humane, and at the same time, reaching within for this higher power. So if the phone rings, I'm available to be of service to that person. before calling my sponsor crying again later about the heartache. I hope that helps, Hemi. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And Emma, thank you so much for, for your vulnerability and putting that question out. And so sorry for your loss. Irina, come on in.
Hi, everybody. My name's Irena, and I am an alcoholic. And thank you so much for a truly, truly wonderful presentation. I love your reliance on the big book and the steps in making decisions, and your sort of profound connection with your higher power. It's very inspiring. I struggled for quite a while in praying for people, as in everything that you said, I'm not going to change God's will. So I pray that the person, that God be with the person, and that the person recognizes that God is there. And that's all I can say in prayer for somebody. I can't ask for the cancer to be cured. Oh, of course I could ask, but what good is that going to do? But I can pray that that person be in the presence and the love of God. So that was my solution. The question that I have for you is, what brought you to this wonderful space of faith that you have? And do you do any outside reading that has brought you along this path? Thank you.
Thank you, Irena. And remember, in the 12 and 12, it says that those prayers are fundamentally good acts. Absolutely great acts to think of praying for people and loving them and wishing them well. Absolutely. I don't know, to tell you the truth. I've read so many spiritual books, so many, including the Bible and the Quran a little bit, just dapping, Paramahansa Yogananda, Stanley E. Jones, some of the books that were found in Bill's library. And when there was a few words that I don't like, I just replace it with my own word. And so that certainly has helped, because my earlier conception was so ineffective for me. It was unworkable. And when you've been taught something every day for 12, 13 years, it's anchored in there. And it's very difficult to recognize those old ideas. So a lot of reading, a lot of contemplation. Like, I'll close the book and I'll use my critical thinking. Say, how would that possibly work? And then also, I've done the big book so many times, line by line. I've done it myself with other people. I've attended yours in French and Farsi and English. I have my hands in my book all the time. And so it's sort of living in me. And when I read the big book, I read it currently to make sure that those 164 pages, I still believe that they apply to me today. And so I take my inventory as I read the big book with others or with myself. So I think it's just having immersed myself in that big book and dabbed into other things. But the big book is extremely powerful, line by line, extreme. God provides for all our needs, not my husband. God. I mean, just to stop and reflect upon that. And it's not my sponsor and it's not my sponsee in particular, it's the fellowship in general. If one little video camera is off, the next one is going to take care of my need for energy. And so just that sentence is so extremely powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for the question. Julie, come on in. Julie, you're
Okay.
here you are.
Okay. I think Julie, alcoholic from Florida. And Line, thank you so much. This is my first time attending this meeting in person, but I download the tapes really frequently and I love it. And I love you were very thought-provoking to me. And when you talked about my sponsor who passed away a couple of years ago and sponsored me for many, many years, she used to say, you have 2 minutes to discuss, tell me what the situation is, because the situation is the problem, and then we're going to talk about the solution, right? And I use that all the time. So I loved hearing you say that. And when you talked about, or somebody talked about, and again, my condolences to Emmy, when bad things happen to good people, I always grappled in Alcoholics Anonymous, today I have a loving, caring God. And my personal belief is I don't believe God's will is to take your husband, your child, give you cancer, give you this. It's like, to me, it's all random. But what for me, God's will is, how do I take my circumstances and use my experience to benefit others, and go to this power greater than me to get the strength to do that. So my question for you is, when you talked about, in having maybe possible conflict with your husband, am I being selfish or is he being unreasonable? And we have a group, and one of my sort of sponsees is on here, like, we practice the pause. How do you stop yourself from reacting? If that makes sense.
Did I say I do? The last time I got disturbed, I slammed the door so hard. The wall shook and the 4 dogs looked at me funny. This was 4 weeks ago. And in fact, today I was reading with a sponsee, and it was in the chapter to wives. No, this was with the Iranians. It is the privilege of each one to say, I'm getting disturbed. Let's talk about it some other time. And I succeeded twice. I have a temper. I have a short fuse. What's happened in the last 43 years is that I'm much gentler. My first husband, I consider myself to have been verbally and emotionally abusive to that man. And the first time I got mad with the current one, we've been together 12 years now, like this. I can't believe you would. He went like this. And my husband is 6'2", a German Swiss, not afraid of anything, and he recoiled. And he said, this is so disrespectful. I don't think it's going to work. I was sober 30 years, and this was my bottom with anger. The worst defect I've ever had, drunk and sober. Since I was little, biting my brother on the hand until my mom bit me, and that stopped me. And it's only 12 years ago with that husband, because I wanted him bad enough. He's a mind-altering man to me. And so I was willing to really 6 and 7 step and making amends and pausing. And so now I slammed the door, but I didn't say anything mean. So I'm work in progress on that pause thing. I'm good maybe 93% of the time. And the sixth step in the 12 entail says that it's not about self-determined objective, but God-determined objective, and that we are to walk towards perfection. So I could never tell my husband, you know what, I'm kind enough now, you're on your own. No. Every time the little loop, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, sometimes I need to confide to my sponsor so she knows exactly when I mess up. And I will always work on being kinder and more patient and more loving. And I'm on my way to 93%.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for the question, Julie. Calvin, my friend, come on in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Calvin. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Pat. And thank you, Lynn, for a good, strong message. And my question is almost like the young lady who spoke before me. You know, I've been more struggling with the idea. I was a person that came in Alcoholics Anonymous a while back, and I stayed here, and I follow Alcoholics Anonymous almost blindly. You know, I followed the principles almost blindly. You know, and now I figure I feel a little bit more God conscious, where my thoughts can, I'm not as crazy as I used to be, right? But sometimes I start questioning some things, and I question the spiritual axiom. Every time something's wrong, it's inside of me. I'm wrong, and I question that because I know that I got to get out of the disturbance. I know I have to get out of the disturbance because I don't like being disconnected from God. So I know I have to get out of the disturbance. And I get out faster and faster, but I still have the disturbance. So if you could just talk a little bit about that. I know you had the knowledge on it because I hear your world of how much you have practiced these principles in all your affairs. It comes across loud and clear, loud and clear. And that's why I'm stepping out here on my own a little bit. So thank you, please, if you could.
Thank you, Calvin. So let's look at that disturbance. What the heck is it? And why is it that I'm wrong? Because I'm disturbed. That's what's wrong with me. I am disturbed. It's not that they are wrong. It's not that they shouldn't have. It's not that they were disrespectful, that they betrayed. It's not that. It's that I am disturbed about what I think they've done, real or imaginary. And to me, that disturbance, Calvin, is the third column in the fourth step. My self-esteem. With my husband, the first couple of years or so, well, I think it's in the fourth or fifth month of meeting each other that we got out of bed. And after that, we fought for a couple of years. And the big issue was he criticizes me. Well, you can agree with me that he's wrong. To be critical is a defect, but he looked at it as sharing his opinion. And my little feelings were hurt. And I remember one time with bitty tears there, please, I want at least a little corner where I could shine too. So I was disturbed, Carlton. So that third column says first self-esteem. So if I believe that I am adequate, you can criticize me all you want. It's not going to disturb me. I might say, you're right on that. I might say, I'll think about it, but I prefer the way I was doing it. Or thank you for sharing your idea. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Except if I feel inadequate, if I believe I'm less than, if I believe I'm not smart enough, not pretty enough. Then if you talk about my nose, it's gonna hurt my feelings because I believe my nose is too big. So that's where that starts. And second, it's the pride. How I want you to see me. And so if you are disrespectful towards me, then I want you to see me as being respectable. I want you to see me as being worthy and important. Then you're going to treat me with respect. See, I want you to change to according to my own preferences for my own comfort. And then my ambitions, what do I want there? Well, I want for my husband, I want to be a perfect wife. If I'm a perfect wife, he's not going to criticize me. My needs, security. I need to be reassured that I'm good enough so he won't leave me. Personal relationships. Husband should believe that their wives know what they're doing. Then he's not going to double check and criticize me. I just want him to shut up. So it's my third column that is the disturbance. And then when I'm disturbed, well, I'm going to be selfish. It's all about me. Self-pity, nobody. He's always criticizing me. And then self-righteous, I'm right that he shouldn't be critical. You see, then the selfishness and the dishonesty that he should be different than he is. That he should always be respectful, that he should always agree with the way I do things. And we know that that's a fantasy, it's not true. I just make it up to justify my behavior and make him wrong about me being hurt. So I have to look at that self-esteem. It's the first domino. And maybe if I do believe I'm adequate, it might still hurt my pride. Who does he think he is to come and double check my work? That's just ego and pride. That'll be the second domino. And in all the inventories that I've seen, that I've done, if the first and second are not bothers, we're not going to go to the third one. It's either my self-esteem or my pride. Pretty close to that, Steve? Pretty close? And then, of course, the fear he's going to leave me. Now, he's never said he would, but I'm just justifying and exaggerating. And of course, something I did not write was, if he leaves me, I will not have the lifestyle that I have today. So there is some greed in there. Now, to my defense, I was mad at him when I wrote that. But I didn't write, I would miss him. And that's the example that I share when I share. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And Stacy, so sorry we didn't get to you. We're running out of time. My apologies to everyone. John, back to you.
Thank you so much, Pat.